Juan Ponce Enrile's life unfolded like a long chapter out of the nation's political history, beginning in 1924 in the rural province of Cagayan when he entered the world as Juan Ferdinand. Few could have predicted that the child born in modest circumstances, the son of Petra Ferdinand and politician Alfonso Ponce Enrile, would rise to become one of the most enduring and contentious figures in Philippine public life. Born out of wedlock and raised far from privilege, he spent his early years with limited resources. His circumstances began to shift only when he later reconnected with his father in Manila. Alfonso eventually acknowledged him legally, arranging his name change and giving him entry into the more structured life of the capital. This transition marked the start of his upward climb. Enrile's academic journey quickly demonstrated the intellectual capacity that would shape his future career. He excelled in school, graduating cum laude from Ateneo de Manila and then from the University of the Philippines College of Law. At the bar examinations, he ranked 11th nationwide, earning a perfect score in mercantile law, an achievement that immediately set him apart. Hungry for further study, he pursued advanced education at Harvard University, completing a Master of Laws with a concentration in international tax law. Before plunging into government service, he spent time teaching, practicing in his father's law office, and working closely with Ferdinand Marcos as his legal advisor. These roles prepared him not just for legal work, but for the political responsibilities that soon awaited him. Enrile formally entered government in 1966 during the early years of Marcos's presidency. From that point, his rise was swift. He held key financial and administrative posts: Undersecretary of Finance, Acting Insurance Commissioner, Customs Commissioner, and later Secretary of Justice. His appointment as Secretary of National Defense in 1970 placed him in a powerful position just as the country moved into one of its most turbulent eras. When Marcos declared martial law in 1972, Enrile became known as one of its primary architects. He drafted the legal framework that justified the proclamation, oversaw military operations, and remained at the center of the administration's security apparatus. Years later, he would admit that the ambush used to help rationalize martial law had been staged, a revelation that deepened the debate over his role in the regime. Throughout the martial law period, Enrile wielded immense power. His influence extended not only into government, but into major sectors of the economy. He played a significant role in industries such as logging, which led to widespread forest depletion, and became involved in the controversial Cocoa Levy Fund alongside Eduardo Danding Cojuangco. Both men oversaw the program, which was later accused of exploiting coconut farmers. By the early 1980s, however, rifts began to develop within the Marcos administration, and Enrile's previously unchallenged position started to erode as new political alliances formed around other power figures. By 1986, tensions had reached a breaking point. Enrile aligned himself with reformist military officers planning to act against Marcos. The plan failed when discovered, but instead of surrendering, Enrile, together with then Armed Forces Vice Chief of Staff Fidel Ramos, announced their withdrawal of support for the president. The two barricaded themselves inside Camp Aguinaldo and Camp Crame. Ordinary Filipinos, already enraged by electoral fraud, gathered in massive numbers along EDSA, creating a human shield around the camps. This moment ignited the People Power Revolution, which forced Marcos into exile and ushered in a new government under Corazon Aquino. Enrile initially expressed solidarity with Aquino, but soon found himself at odds with her leadership. Their disagreements stemmed from ideological clashes, his opposition to her handling of communist insurgency, and investigations into his past actions under the Marcos regime. He eventually resigned from the cabinet and was later linked to various coup attempts, though he denied direct involvement. Despite these controversies, Enrile repeatedly reinvented himself politically. In 1987, he won a Senate seat, though his victory was followed by a brief detention after another coup attempt rattled the Aquino government. From 1992 to 1995, he served as a congressman representing Cagayan, then returned to the Senate in 1995, resuming his role as one of the chamber's most seasoned figures. His political maneuvers, including criticism of subsequent administrations, debates over coup allegations, and involvement in political uprisings such as EDSA 3, kept him at the center of national conversation. He ran for president in 1998, but was unsuccessful. Yet he continued returning to public office, winning Senate seats again in 2004 and 2010. Enrile's most prominent legislative achievement in his later years came in 2008 when he assumed the Senate presidency after Manuel Villar stepped down. His term as Senate president corresponded with several landmark events. He oversaw discussions on the declaration of martial law in Maguindanao in 2009 and gained national attention during the 2012 impeachment trial of Chief Justice Renato Corona. Acting as the presiding officer, he earned praise from both supporters and critics for what many described as a disciplined and even-handed approach. Enrile ultimately voted to convict Corona. However, controversy once again followed him. Internal disputes within the Senate, particularly over the allocation of chamber funds and tensions with fellow senators, led to his resignation in 2013. He concluded his Senate career in 2016, and an attempt to return in 2019 did not succeed. A remarkable chapter in Enrile's long life unfolded in 2022 when, at age 98, he was appointed Chief Presidential Legal Counsel by President Bongbong Marcos. His return to Malacanang under the son of his former ally underscored his enduring influence. Even in his late 90s, he remained actively involved in policy discussions and offered legal guidance in critical national matters. Legal controversy, however, caught up with him more seriously in the 2010s. Enrile became entangled in the pork barrel, PDF, scandal, a massive corruption case alleging the misuse of 20 billion Cuban pesos in public funds. He was accused of accepting 172 million Cuban pesos in kickbacks and was arrested in 2014. Although he suffered health complications that allowed him to secure hospital detention and temporary bail, the case continued for years. In October 2025, only weeks before his passing, he was acquitted, marking a dramatic conclusion to one of his most serious legal battles. Beyond public office, Enrile's personal life added another layer to his complicated legacy. He married Cristina Castañer Garcia, with whom he had 2 children, Juan Jr., known as Jack, and Katrina. His long-standing relationship with his chief of staff, Jessica Gigi Reyes, became a sensational public controversy, especially during the height of Senate disputes in the early 2010s. The affair influenced political dynamics within his circle and fueled media scrutiny. Despite these tensions, Enrile maintained an image of discipline and routine in his private life. He often spoke about faith, mental fortitude, and maintaining healthy habits, earning a somewhat mythical reputation for resilience as he continued to work into old age. His longevity even turned him into a social media figure, with countless memes portraying him as indestructible. Health challenges accompanied his final years, ranging from diabetes and hypertension to recurring heart issues, but they did little to slow his work. In February 2024, he reached his 100th birthday, a milestone celebrated at Malacanang and commemorated with a special postal stamp. Even then, he remained active in government consultations. Enrile died peacefully at home on November 13, 2025, at the age of 101. His passing triggered national reflection, public viewings, and renewed discussions about the complicated marks he left on Philippine politics. His story has been retold repeatedly, in documentaries, dramatizations, and historical analyses, each highlighting a man whose influence spanned authoritarian rule, democratic transitions, and almost every major political shift in the country's modern history. As for his financial standing, Enrile had long been regarded as one of the wealthier figures in government. Estimates of his net worth varied, but public disclosures placed his assets in the hundreds of millions of pesos, accumulated over decades of legal work, business interests, and political influence. His wealth, like his career, was frequently scrutinized and often questioned, yet he maintained that his earnings came from legitimate professional pursuits. Whatever the debates, his financial profile became another controversial aspect of a life that never escaped public examination. Enrile's century-long journey reflected both the triumphs and contradictions of Philippine leadership, marked by brilliance, ambition, controversy, and longevity. His legacy remains one of the most polarizing in the nation's history, shaped by the turbulent eras he helped define and the political storms he weathered across more than 7 decades in the public eye. And with that, thanks for watching. Give us a like, share with friends, and please subscribe.